I was talking about my penis, not about the drive.
Both.
Good one, Eddie. Penis jokes. They don't
Funny
get
as
old.
always.
They do not get old.
Like Catholic children. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Fake Philosophers.
Wow, that's a hell of an intro.
Once again, it's me, Mike, Eddie, and Mitch.
Hi.
I'm gonna.
You're drinking.
Sorry for those of you confused as to the laugh fit we were in when you joined us. We just made some very good Catholic jokes. So.
Yes.
Or just one really bad one.
One enough to make it flush.
All right,
How you guys doing?
Good. I have some grievances to vent, and you people are going to listen. So, Eddie, I'm
only listening to Will Smith grievances right now.
That's fair.
I'm fine with skipping pleasantries, whatever.
Fuck pleasantries. We're jumping right into the video.
I'm angry. People need to know about it.
Yes.
I'm
actually curious.
Nobody else is angry.
No one's ever angry but me. I'm actually kind of curious about you guys' opinion. So, Eddie, in the past, we talked about how it's the Great Resignation. It's now the employee market. Employers have to be a lot more giving to get people on board. So here's about my experience this week. It's Thursday today. We've been looking at the bar for dishwashers and food runners. I would say by this past Sunday or Saturday, I reached out to like 15 to 20 different people. Some of them got back to me, some of them didn't. I would say out of, let's say 15, 10 got back to me, but we didn't schedule an interview. Mm-hmm. So a total of 7 people got back to me, and we scheduled interviews. So on Monday, 2 interviews were scheduled. Neither one of them showed up to the interview. The first one, I had messaged about 5 minutes after the time, and I was like, hey, are you running late? And he said, I had an emergency. Can we reschedule tomorrow? And I was like, that's fine. Let's do it. So Tuesday, I had 2 scheduled. Oh, and the guy, the second one on Monday, had asked, initially I think it was like at 11 in the morning, and then he said, I'm sorry, could I come in at 4:30 instead? And I was like, that's fine. I waited till 4:30. Motherfucker never showed up. So then Tuesday, or it was like Monday, like 7:45, he messaged me, oh, hey, my bad, dude. Could I come in tomorrow? And I just didn't message him back because that was not the first time he's no-showed. Mm-hmm. I actually only scheduled that to see if he would show up because he already no-showed me like 3 times in the last 2 months. So that's why I just scheduled to see if he would show up, and he didn't. So Tuesday, I had 2 scheduled. Neither one of them showed up, including the guy who rescheduled. So that's 3 on Tuesday. Wednesday, I had 2 scheduled. One showed up, and she was cool. Other one, no show, no call, no message, nothing. Today, Thursday, I had 1 scheduled in the morning, and I had talked to this person throughout the week. Did not show up. Oh, wait, I'm going to rewind. The guy who was supposed to...
What the fuck?
The guy who said, can I come in at 4:30 instead on Monday? I forgot this part. This is the guy who I just scheduled just to see if he would show up. He messaged me at like 4:13 saying, I'm going to be there at 4:30. Because I think he said a little after 4. And so he messaged me at 4:13 saying, I'm going to be there at 4:30. And he never showed up. It was just weird. I was like, what the fuck? So then today, Thursday, I had one scheduled at 11:30 a.m. Never showed up. And then a guy who randomly called yesterday afternoon and talked to my brother-in-law, he said, I can come in for an interview at 4 o'clock. So this guy who called us showed up at 4 o'clock, and he was great. So just in my head, there was one guy who was scheduled for Tuesday who messaged me on Monday saying, cancel my interview. I found a job. I don't need the interview. And I was like, thank you for letting me know. So my grievance is simply put, I'll say it, we use Indeed.com to search out for people. Why interact with me and schedule something if you are not going to fucking show up or at least let me? And I know it's an employee's market, like Eddie, we've talked about, but this shit's just disrespectful in my opinion.
Are you suggesting that the generation today applying for a low-skill job might have bad work habits?
I get that, but I'm just like, if it happened once in a while, but this is not even, so this week it happened because we scheduled so many interviews, but it's happened in the past where I'll schedule interviews with people and they'll just fucking never talk to me again.
Wow.
Wow. We had a guy, this happened twice a few years ago, who he signed on to be a security guard, a bouncer, a doorman, if you will. He worked 2 shifts training, and we literally never heard from him again. We messaged him, "Are you okay? Like, where are you?" Never heard from him again.
Wow.
And it's just, I get, like, because there was one guy I talked to, we messaged back and forth on Indeed, where he was asking questions about the job, the rate, etc. And he eventually was like, "You know what? It's not for me." And I was like, "That's fine. That's fine." But I just don't get, especially the cat who fucking ghosted me like 3-4 times and didn't show up. Why would you continue to even, like I said, I scheduled it just to see if he would come.
Yeah.
And he didn't. I don't know. I just wanted to get your perspectives on why. And it's not like 1 or 2 people. Like I said, this entire week, I think I had 8 or 9 interviews total, and 2 people showed up. I'm bewildered by it. I'm so confused by it.
That's unfortunate, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's right now. This is coming to a head too, because you're not the only one, and I appreciate you sharing that. It's very interesting because I'm just really right now I'm an employee, and I have my certain limits, and my limits are pretty much salary expectations and what have you, and time. But that being said, I get inundated because of my skill set. With a variety of employers. And when I'm in the market, I don't necessarily, there was a time when I was reaching out, and if you reached out to me, and because I already knew what the expectation was, I'll get back. This is my perspective, and I'm going to address what happened to you. I would just say, what's the salary of the position? Or what's the hourly salary of the position? If it was below a certain amount, I would say, thank you for that's below what I'm looking for. Thank you for your time. Now that being said, okay, let's say I go through the process, or we leave the salary hourly to the end of the interview like we used to do, or not even bring it up until like the last minute. Well, I've wasted your time. I've wasted my time. Unfortunately, if you're in the labor, if you're a buyer in the labor market, you're going to encounter the kind of ghosting mentality because people are kind of approaching it like, they're dating. It's a social interaction because think about it. You're doing everything over the phone. It's a swipe left, swipe right mentality. So you're kind of the labor market's really treating it in that respect. So the job, because of, people needing the demand for labor right now, they're treating it in that respect. So I might not take you seriously, but if I need you, you're in my back pocket, and that's I don't say it's right. It's not a right thing to do. It's completely inappropriate from my aspect. Then again, I'm a Gen Xer. But then again, if you look at, kind of Generation Z, it's like, well, this is the way I treat. If I don't want to talk to you, then I'm just going to ghost you because why get into it with you? Why argue with you? I don't need to talk to you, blah, 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 blah. And it's not very professional. Now, there are people doing this at Apple. There are people doing this at freaking Google. It's not just for a small business owner. It's quite a shock. It's very difficult because it's unprofessional, but you're not alone in kind of the modern take on good help is hard to find, because for right now it is still an employee's market. That's gonna shift real quick with inflation being what it is, oil being what it is, groceries. How are these people getting by? Rent being what it is, how are these people getting by?
Well, I mean, California did extend its eviction moratorium again, so I don't know.
But that's not helping the issue. But okay, so my question back to you: would you rather have people ghost you now, or show up for 2 shifts and then ghost you?
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, I don't think Mike. I don't think Mike's saying that. I'm going to speak for you, Mike.
Go for it.
Chris Rock did.
I mean, but you're allowed to bitch about it. I mean, obviously, it would be worse if you hired a guy and he went through the process of training and then he dropped out. I mean, it also depends on the position. If you were looking for a bartender or a manager or even a bouncer, if you go through the process of making sure he has his guard card, or I don't know if you require that, but the training process, and then he just bounces out, it'd be really frustrating. versus a dishwasher who after a couple days, I mean, not to belittle the job at all, but to be like, well, it'd be easier to replace. Kind of glad that they ghosted you now rather than later, but
there is still that aspect of it. Yeah,
you're still allowed to complain about, because that is shitty. That is shitty,
especially what it's been in the past. It's difficult hiring for those positions in a past labor market, but the fact that you're getting ghosted, I completely empathize with your disrespect.
Well, it's just it's interesting. So this is the first time it's happened in this abundance, but even pre-pandemic and everything, it's happened where I'll talk to somebody on the phone, cool, chat with them. Like, can I see you tomorrow at 3? Great, and then just nothing. And it's like, because this is pre-pandemic too that this happened, and I just never. It might be a generational thing. Like this is a different example, but for instance, after school when I came back and we started running the bar and everything, I was talking to my brother-in-law about it. I was like, when I did theater, even non-paid community theater, college, whatever, when the director says something, I do it. It's the director. It's respecting the position. And we were talking about employees talking back, getting attitudes and shit. And I was like, I can't fathom this kind of behavior, like to a boss. And anyway, that's where with this, I've made appointments and then canceled and apologized. Like, I'm so sorry I can't make it for these reasons. I just can't fathom. And I'll when I was single, I've ghosted some bitches too, where I'm just like, I don't want to talk to this bitch, and ghosted. I get it. But with a job interview, it just, I can't fathom it.
It's a form of bridge burning, really. I mean, if I applied at your bar and decided as I got closer to the interview, it's like, no, this isn't going to work, or no, I'm not going to make it to the interview. And I would just say, sorry, not going to make it. Doesn't look like it's a good fit. But I feel like that still leaves the door open if down the road I said, hey, I don't know if you're still interested, but
that's happened. I was going to say that has happened. One of our security guards now, excuse me. I first interviewed him, I think back in I want to say September or October. And he was really cool. It's imperative
that you get this right.
Yeah, so important. But we talked, and I really dug his vibe, and I contacted him after the interview, like, hey, I really like to bring you on board. And without going into the details, he has a day job, and he was going to work. He said he could work nights because he has someone to babysit his kids. He messaged me back. He's like, I'm so sorry to waste your time, but my babysitting situation has changed. I simply can't take the job anymore. And I was like, thank you for getting back to me. Fast forward to, I think, December. He just messages me out of the blue like, hey, are you still looking for guards? And I was like, yes, especially if you're interested. He's like, yeah, I got my situation smoothed out. Like, I'd love to come on board. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
But you're right. If this guy had just fucking ghosted me and never responded to me or anything, I'd be like, oh, fuck yourself. No.
It's difficult because on the front end, it's actually good because you want to know that right away before you invest time and effort into those people. It's a hard pill to swallow. But if I were in your shoes, I would, have your same frustration. But then again, do you want to be ghosted now, or do you want to be ghosted 2 shifts from now?
And that's on the backside of it. I do understand that concept too. It's like, okay, at least I know without even having to waste a 5-minute interview on this person. At least I know this is not the person I want to hire. I do see that side of it. It's just fucking, especially on Monday.
But you want to believe that people are basically good and they'll at least be professional, right? It's a little bit disappointing that they're going to do. I mean, it's good that you know that now, but you're kind of disappointed. You wish more people would be professional.
And it's just the inconvenience of it too. Because don't get me wrong, if I scheduled an interview at noon and they don't show up, I'm just like, I'm here anyway. Fine. On Monday, I was going to leave at 4. I was planning to leave at 4 because I had to do some shit around the house. And he said, I'll be there a little after 4. And I was like, okay, I'll stay. He said, I'll be there at 4:30. I'll stay longer. And I think I stayed till 5, and I was like this kid just wasted 45 fucking minutes of my time. Like, it's not even that he ghosted me. He's literally costing me time.
Yes.
That's why I was like, fuck this guy. And I almost wanted to schedule it when he messaged me that night. I almost wanted to just schedule it again to see if he shows up. And if he does show up, I could see his fucking face. And I know who he is.
And be like, okay, you wasted my time earlier. Now I'm wasting yours. I'll talk to you later.
When he walks in, I just leave.
Yeah.
But then that's a waste of your time too.
Yeah, I know. I'm not that petty. But fuck.
I'll I'll be honest with you guys. Like, so I'm not doing the, hey, I visited England last year bit. I'm like literally saying, I don't know if I've mentioned in this podcast that I do what my job is. I work on generators as a family business, small business family business. And really it's just my parents and I. And obviously we've always wanted to expand. We'd love to grow so that we don't have to work as much, blah, blah, blah. But I not even confide, I publicly state like the number one reason why I do not want to expand is that because it means hiring someone, and not just any someone. It's someone that has to have a high skill set. So there is a lot of investment, not only a high skill set, but a high risk value of cause of injury. And they're driving somewhere where there's cause of injury, where they have to have a high skill set. So I'm like, the requirements to bring a Californian onto our, employees, holy shit, dude. So it mortifies me. My parents are a little bit more like, you know what, but that's business. You just got to do it. You just got to do it. And I'm like, no, so
no, yeah,
it's
you're risk adverse. You can pay for that by going through an employment agency or a contractor. It's expensive. You're going to pay for that, but you lose that risk. They absorb the risk. You get the labor, and it's not going to be cheap.
I think my parents constantly forget the blessing that I am.
It's easy, yeah.
We'll make sure they see that clip too. Yeah,
absolutely.
No, it really was. When I started working for him, it was, I was living at home. I didn't have a job, and I was like, hey, my days are free anyway. Can I start following you around? And that turned into a 2-year, like an accidental apprenticeship, really, of me following my dad around and learning the craft. And then one day saying, you know what, I'm going to be serious about it. Let's do it. And because we have such a great relationship, they weren't worried about me suing them if I got into a car accident or whatever. But I'm like, oh my God, I'm mortified of it to bring someone else on. It's just the employee rights today are so out of control. It's unbelievable. Employees' rights, maybe have a little competition with renters' rights, but I mean, those people get away with everything.
Yeah, but you're right though, because like I could be kind of, I don't know. But there's been times in the past where even like you hire someone. I could actually say this. We hired someone recently. She's not gonna watch this shit. Her interview.
No one does.
Yeah, of the 8 people, I'm pretty sure she's not one of them.
Out of 27 subscribers. Yes.
There you go. But so we hired this chick. The interview. So me and our manager is only one. We interviewed this girl, and she gave a fucking phenomenal interview. It was great. It was an amazing interview. First day of training, our manager's like, this bitch is going to be an all-star. She's a killer. It's going to be great. Within 2 weeks...
Did he say that exactly? Or?
She said that in so many words.
Excuse me. Holy shit.
Progress. But within 2 weeks, everyone on staff was like, this bitch is nuts. What the fuck?
Really?
And so we were like, okay. And it's one of those things. You're right though. Like, as much as everyone says California is a free to work state, you can fire someone for any reason. You really can't. That's on like you can, and quote unquote, but they can come at you for any sort of wrongful termination depending on what it is.
Will it stick though? Because if it's an at-will contract, that benefits the employee. At-will is it's used offensively by companies. So your HR department, which is you, it's meant because it's supposed to prevent indentured servitude. So you as an employee can say, no, we're good. I don't need to spend another month here to pay off my debt. We're good.
Sure. But even like I remember because we don't have an official HR firm, but we have people we know who are lawyers, and we kind of chat with them like, what about this, what about that? And even we had a girl who she was on the verge of being fired. Let's just say it. This is pre-pandemic, and then she had to take time off because she was going to like a mental health like clinic for like several weeks to like get her, which is fine. That's great. So she was already on her way to we were like, we're going to have to let this girl go. She was already on her way, but then she had to go to this mental health clinic, and we're like, okay, so you can't, we're all aware if someone has medical leave, you can't terminate them because of that. You have to allow them to come back and do their job. So we allowed her to come back, and her first shift back, she freaks the fuck out like 2 to 3 hours in just because of the stress.
Oh dear.
And so we're in a situation where it's like she ditched her shift. She left. But, and I'm saying this as someone who's an avid supporter of mental health. Like I really think people should take care of themselves. In that situation, we wouldn't have fired her because of her mental health issue. We would have fired her because she abandoned her shift.
Yes.
There's a difference. But she could play it as if I had a health issue and they fired me because of it. And
She
so we
can
were
certainly do that as well.
Yeah, and we were put in that situation because I remember we never had this happen, but just philosophically, we were talking about if we hired a Mormon and we were looking for shifts for Sunday. And the Mormon's like, I can't work Sunday. And we're like, well, then we can't hire you. If that person had a good enough lawyer, they could say they didn't hire me because I'm Mormon. And that's just the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that's the position my parents tend to take, is that, look, if they're going to sue us, they're going to sue us. We just got to, we're religious, and we're like, we just got to trust God that he's going to bring us someone that, we can trust, and we just got to trust it. Otherwise, what? We're just going to stay in one place forever? And I'm like, yes, but
yeah. And to be honest,
it's difficult if you're a small business, especially if you want to expand. I mean, Mitch hit it right on the head. It's like, hiring somebody in California.
Hiring somebody in general, because you're right. There was years where I was working every Friday and Saturday nights, 2 business nights of the week. Partially, even though it was a detriment on my mental health dealing with all this shit, partially because I didn't trust not being there. Does that make sense? Somebody from the family 100%. Has to be there.
Yeah.
So I would put myself, as I was bartending and managing at the same time. I was losing my fucking mind all the time. And it wasn't until after I stepped away from bartending I realized that. But it was the distrust. It was like these are people I don't know. Like I can't not be there. Yeah.
See, my situation is my normal day is I drive to central LA to some rich guy's house where he has a generator, and I have to go through a checklist of everything that could possibly go wrong with this generator and make sure that it's all okay. I do that about 3 or 4 times a day, and that's a normal day. So for me to hire someone and say, I am not only training you to be in this skill set of knowing this product,
there's the liability.
But there's a liability, there's the getting there, and then there's me giving my rich customer in the hands of this millennial who did 2 weeks of training. And he passed his 3-day online course so he could be a certified dealer for this one product. And I'm just going to be like, you know what? Shit.
Yeah, I love hearing this as small business owners. I mean, this is a perspective I think other people would appreciate.
Yeah. And what bums me out, to kind of speak to Glennie's issue with, bad work ethic, is when I do show up to a new customer who said, I've been trying to get people to come out here. I've been trying to get a generator. Come to find out that people like us that show up when they say they're going to show up. If they don't know, they'll say they don't know and they'll figure it out. But just the fact that they showed up is rare. That it took them so long to find someone. I mean, granted, we're blue collar, but just for someone to at least just show up and answer their phone calls and call them back. And it's rare, and it bums me out. I should feel proud. Like, yeah, I'm doing it, but that's an easy thing to do. That's
it's one of those things that should be the normal. It should be the normal thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
So
I have to confess. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I do remember kind of speaking to that point where when I was still bartending a lot of the time, one of our other bartenders, he went and he like stocked all the kegs with backups, and he's like, "Hey Mike, like look what I did." And I was like, "You realize you're supposed to do that?" I think I said it to him. I shouldn't have. I should have been like, "Yeah, thanks, man. Like that's what you should do every time." Yeah.
That's
but
what you should
I think I was like, "Dude, that's your job. You're supposed to do that." Like,
Chris Rock has a whole routine on that, right? Like,
I think so, yeah.
Chris Rock has a whole routine.
What would it hurt? What would it hurt if you just said, "That's a great job. I appreciate that and everything you do." Thanks so much.
In retrospect, you're absolutely right. In the moment, just being frustrated with life, because those years where I was bartending every Friday and Saturday were not mentally good for me. But just in that moment, I was like, yeah, like like it'd be like if a cook
That's
I put
like
in,
a bloody moment, though. That
but
is.
but if I,
It really is.
it was just funny because like if I put in a cheeseburger, like a ticket to cheeseburger, and the cook's like, hey Mike, look at this cheeseburger, and I was like, it's your fucking job, yeah, thank you. Look what.
You should do that. You should do that to your customers. Lay it down. There it is. Huh? There's your
Yeah.
drink. That's a beer. I poured it. You know?
No, see, it's, did you guys ever have it? This might
Oh,
just be
that's
me.
awesome.
This might just be me because I'm a psycho. But there was
Same.
when my first job, I worked at a retirement home. In their kitchen, they had like a whole little like eatery, kind of like a restaurant style when they had their meals. So they had a full kitchen with a serving staff and all that. And I was a prep cook and a dishwasher. I'd like, depending on the day, I did all kinds of stuff. But I remember, so it's a first job, part-time job, whatever. And I go in to collect a paycheck. This is before, I think it was right on the cusp of direct deposit. But I'd go in, I'm like, oh yeah, just picking up my paycheck. The manager would hand me the paycheck. It's like, hey, we really appreciate it. Thank you for your work. And, here's your paycheck. I would get, unfortunately, almost insulted. Like, this is your thank you. You don't need to thank me for what you're paying me to do. I always was like, come on, don't thank me. I'm getting paid. If you thank me, I feel bad now that I'm taking your money. It's like
That's an interesting perspective. That's
Well,
because it is a done deal. That's why you're there.
and it's like, no,
you're not doing
thank
it
you.
for free. But then again, it's the emotional attachment to what you're doing. The thanks always help. It doesn't hurt.
I appreciate it if it were something like, hey, you went out of your way and you did a little bit more on this day. I saw it and I appreciate it. That'd mean like the world. But when it's something like, hey, you showed up on time, you did the work you said you were going to do, and you're clocking out, here's your pay, thank you. It's like, we had an agreement here.
I gotta take their side. You said like you showed up on time, you left late. That's great. I would be so happy if everyone showed up on time all the time.
See, because it is rare. Because you're
I would be like,
rare.
thank you, thank you. Don't leave.
So I guess I was more mad. I wasn't even mad. It wasn't that I was upset at them. I was upset that they had to say it.
Yeah.
Like they
Well, they
felt
didn't
like
have
they
to
had
say it. They could have said, "Here's your check."
That's true.
You know?
That's true. But they
Chili on your fries.
On the
and then-
flip side, if we had an HR person, they probably would have been mad at me. I remember someone said something like that. They're like, I was telling, like, hey, just make sure during your shift you this. And they're like, oh, like, well, what do I get in return? I'm like, your fucking paycheck that we give you. Like, what do you mean? What do you get in return?
Amen.
We had an agreement.
See, Mike is very unhealthy, but he has a healthy perspective, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, that
Yes.
makes sense to me.
Because you've worked both sides and you work both sides, you don't lose that sense of like, okay, I've been in your shoes, literally. Shut the fuck up and do your shit.
This is what I did when I was there.
Yeah.
Are you better than me? Yes. Then deal with it.
Well, it doesn't hurt, but I can see both points of view.
No, I do think there is something though to even like we have a newer bartender who's worked for us for maybe a year and a half, 2 years now, and we almost didn't hire her, but we hired her, and she turned out to be a great fucking hire. I remember at one point I just told her straight up, I was like, I'm not sure if we ever said this to you. Super fucking happy we hired you.
That's awesome.
Just said that to her. I was like, super fucking happy we hired you, and she was just kind of like, oh, thank you, and I was like, no, thank you. Like, you're fucking great. Thank you.
Mhm.
And just I do think that little bit though now plants that seed of loyalty of like, okay, they appreciate me.
Definitely.
And even if she's not a manager, but we'll go to her like, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think about that? And so there is that. But
It does go a long way. I mean, the organizer, every Tuesday, this is what I do, and it's what I've chosen to do. We See San Diego is a charity that every Tuesday they offer a free home cooked meal to the populations, local populations needy.
I remember you telling us about that. Yeah.
And the organizer, her name's Laura, every time she sees me, she knows her name. She says, thank you. Even one time when, they have like little coolers that they put water in so they can, dispense bottles of water, keep them cold. It was leaking. I just know what to do. I grabbed a mop, started mopping. Laura came by. Hey, thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. It's just that little thing. And that's part of what keeps me coming back. It's that sense of community, that sense of thanks. And I love, and that's leadership. To me, that's leadership when you do that.
Sure. Yeah.
And then
And just a sense of appreciation goes a long way.
very much
Yeah.
so. Now, the opposite of that, I was going to get into like kind of my ghosting stories and somebody, you know, as an employee, as, you know, somebody who was seeking work a little bit ago, getting into the job market. What caused me to ghost was, well, when a particular person reached out to me and I have questions and it was a Friday and they said to call them back, I call their cell, and it's Florida time too. And then I call their business line. It kicks to somebody else. And they said, okay, let me transfer you to them. And then I get hung up on. And that was probably a transfer problem. So you know what? I ghosted that person. Interestingly enough, the contract they were submitted me for really liked me. I got to stage 1, I got to stage 2, and it was their manager who had to talk to me. And I eventually, you know, ended up getting the position that I have now. But that's one instance. The other instance was, I forgot, it was for like a part-time gig that was above the line of what I was looking for hourly. And the guy gripes at me right away. Like, this is over messaging in LinkedIn. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I send it now. Granted, it wasn't the only opportunity that I was, you know, kind of investing in. He did say to put times that I could meet in Central Time. I was busy. I had other things that I was, you know, addressing. I put them in Pacific Time, and then he just texts me back, or he messages me back, is there a reason you couldn't put them in Central Time? And I'm like, I'm going to be representing this person, and it's like, that's a no. And that person still ended up calling me. I did not answer the phone. And then I get the, you know, we're not moving forward with your resume via LinkedIn. And it's like, yeah, thank God you were responsible for that. But just being able to do the math in your head and being more of a leader, because he doesn't get paid. He doesn't get paid unless I get paid. So I'm the one doing the labor. You're the one doing the managing. If you treating me like this in 2 messages, it's not going to work out. I guarantee it. So, you know, that speaks to the ghosting.
I would agree with that because the guy was a dick.
Yeah.
But I know when I'm a dick. I know when I'm a dick. I wasn't a dick. I was very respectful when I was talking to people. So I think if it would be more like if you guys said like, okay, hey, let's do a video interview at 3:00 on Tuesday. Then you were just like, no, I'm just not going to go. I'm just not going to do it. But it's different. But I get it.
Yeah. If you get kids like, you know, that are kids, they're 18, 19, 20. They have to be able to work into a bar. I'm calling them kids. Who's old now? But yeah, they're used to that kind of friend, unfriend thing. And the more you do that over the phone, the more you're going to encounter that. And it's a generational thing.
Yeah, there is a decreasing, increasing rate of avoiding conflict and avoiding, you know, difficult conversations. It's so much easier just to block a phone number than it is to tell someone to their face, you know? So it's just, you know, you get
there's no win in it. That's why I did the ghosting thing. It's like, well, I'm going to waste my time getting into it. And it's like, should I tell this guy to be more polite? No, I just don't want to work for him. And I know I'm going to get back by not offering him my labor because, you know, he's going to get a piece of it and he's not.
I almost feel like it could be generational, but even recently a guy on Indeed, he applied for the dishwashing position, and in his resume on Indeed, it said like, I'm 17 years old, I go to this high school, but I want to work, I want to do blah, 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 blah. And I messaged him, I was like, hey man, like, read your resume, like, you want to come out and interview? And he messaged me, he's like, absolutely, here the dates are available, but just so you know, I am 17. And I was like, cool. Like, as long as you have your work permit because you're under 18, I don't give a fuck. So, like, you do have this 17-year-old now who's, like, following up, wanting to work. So I'm not sure if it's generational or just...
No, it's a societal thing. I mean, because
it's the quality of the people. That's who you want to hire. You want that guy who's upfront and professional. You know, obviously, I don't care how old you are. Even if you're like 13, do your parents approve? Make sure you get 2 forms of ID from those parents, and you know everybody's on your contract. But yeah, if you want to work, you know, even the jerky boys when they were doing their prank phone calls. One of those incidents is a guy like an auto mechanic. He says, "All right, how about this? I show up, I start work tomorrow," and the guy has to say, "Whoa, I got to hire you first." But can you imagine that? Somebody who wants to work for your business that, no, I'm going to show up tomorrow and I'm working for you. You know?
Yeah. Well,
There's the opposite of that.
No, so the guy I talked to, I think I told you today's Thursday, the second interview, the guy who called like last minute and he made it by 4. And he was a fucking, like, I liked him 30 seconds in. And I think we all know, kind of like an audition, in an interview, 30 seconds in.
Yeah.
I think the interviewee knows too, 30 seconds in, whether or not they're getting hired. And so he was awesome. And I was like, okay, well, like, got all the questions out. And I was like, well, when could you start? And he's like, I could start tonight.
Damn.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like, oh no, don't worry about that because like we already had somebody that night and blah blah blah. But in my head, I was like, this, and he has a daytime job too. Like this guy just wants to fucking work, and I was like, cool. And like we're gonna hire him. I just told him like, hold on, like I'll call you just so like I could talk to my partner and everything. But no, and so I'm not even sure if it's like generational. I feel like if you are on Indeed.com trying to get a job, you're already kind of might be
easiest way.
It's kind of a red flag. Even though we've gotten some good people off of Indeed, it is kind of a red flag.
It's an easy way to get your name out there and be hired because you can do it on your phone. You can look it up. And so that's the double edge of that sword is that, because it's easy to do and it's easy to find people, it is easy to do it if you're not, without a real commitment, I guess.
You're not going face to face. Yeah.
If you want a job though, I mean, you could do it. Before Indeed, there was Career Builder. There's dice.com for technical people.
Craigslist.
If you really go far back, there's Thingamajob, there's Monster still. But the thing is, yeah, with Indeed, it really doesn't matter. It's the quality of person and it's how committed they are. And that's the difficult thing. It's the commitment to the position and then being shown up as reliable. And if you're starting out earlier in career, you don't know that quite yet. And if you're dealing with that demographic, you're going to have growing pains such as that. But honestly, off of Indeed, generally I go off of Dice, and up to a certain point now it's all LinkedIn.
I've never been on LinkedIn, but I've heard good things about LinkedIn.
Do people still walk in and ask to speak to a manager to see if they're hiring? Do people still do that?
Yes.
Because that's what I would do. I would do, like, if I were looking for a job, that's 100% what I would do. I wouldn't apply online, none of that shit. I'd face-to-face manager, hi, here's my resume, whatever.
So the girl I talked about earlier who ended up being fucking psychopath, she did that. That's what caught my eye. Is that she came in with asked for manager. I was in the back. I came out. She handed me her resume. We chatted for a minute. And then so we needed somebody. So like a week or two later, I called her in. That's when we did the interview. She nailed it. Turns out she was a psychopath. But the point was the fact that she came in and just handed me the resume. It was nice.
Says a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah. She got hired.
Yeah. Whoops. But I mean, what they turn out to be, you can't control. But as far as like the initial, how do you do?
First impressions are everything. And man, just thinking about that, the last time I did that was to be a bartender. And I remember going in for a couple drinks. All I had was bartending school. I didn't hang out in bars, but they had hired people like that, and then they're passed out of in the bathroom, and it's like, okay, we'll see you later. But I knew Mike's brother was like a bouncer there, and so that's how.
Not me, by the way, not me, Mike. Yeah.
Not.
I was gonna say, wait a minute.
Yeah, not me.
But whatchamacallit, I remember going in one evening, and Joey might have prompted me to go in. But I hand the bartender who was working my resume. Sergio, the guy who owned the bar, one of the owners, he hands it to Sergio. Sergio just looks at it, nods at him, and then he's like, "Okay, come behind the bar right now." That's how I got started as a bartender. Come on back. Here's how you pour a beer. That's awesome. Just learned how to like a Long Island in a hurricane.
That's awesome. You know what? Fuck the internet. Let's get rid of all internet hiring and just do it that way. That's the way it should be.
And it's incredible now because my gig, at first, it's like I even told my son, "Yeah, I'm not going to apply to any jobs. I'm just going to let him come at me." But then the quality isn't like really there. If you want your own quality, you've got to go out because who's coming at you? It's people who are going to get a piece of what you earn. And it's like, no, I'll just go out and find my own gig and I'll keep that extra $25, Yeah. But it's fascinating on LinkedIn. I just remember just the first time, just that I got hired off of LinkedIn. My Indeed story is that none like it. I understand why it happened like this in retrospect. I submitted my resume. The next day, well, no, he called me in like 2 hours, said, hey, you're here for a SharePoint position, huh? Can you come in tomorrow for an interview? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come in tomorrow. I go in. So that's Tuesday, Wednesday interview, Thursday I'm hired. That's it, you know, but then again, if you don't have somebody to run the thing, now there's the reason they did that because they were that disorganized. I don't even put it on my resume. You know?
Sure.
That was kind of a cluster.
Yeah.
And it was kind of nice because they gave you a performance. Oh, no, I wouldn't discuss that. But yeah, it didn't work out. And I got another job that, you know, paid like $30 an hour more. So it's, you know,
there you go.
And I told that to a coworker. He's like, I don't even make half that, you know, it's like, but yeah, that's the labor market. And that's, you know, that's kind of the skilled labor market. And the more credentialing you have, the more you can call your own shots.
Yeah. I think I'm luckily still in that market where skill is a big part of it. And what's on my resume is a big part of it. But with since it's still it's partly labor but mostly a service-based career or job that I have, the interpersonal part of it's huge. So if I went in and greeted a manager, that speak like even if I were lacking in skill, making up for it with your interpersonal skills is
that's huge actually. That's huge actually.
And it's fascinating being in my line of work as a software engineer, having this skill. It's like I'm a mutant, but I'm a refreshing one, you know, because now I can present the code and it's not Milton. It's like I'm actually going to be interesting. And people are going to be engaged because, you know, if he's, you know, 1 minute he's telling you about, you know, how to do how to enter these informations, and then the next minute he's got a sparkler up his ass. It's like pretty, you know. It's pretty fun.
Maybe that's why, and you guys correct me if I'm being a judgmental dickhead here, but if I know someone who is having a hard time getting a job, I instantly judge them because I'm like, okay, then you're not likable. Because people will people will hire people they like, whether they're skilled or not. It's been forever.
I don't know. Well, not in this business, not in software.
Okay, in specific, you know, jobs like yours. But if you were unemployed, if Eddie, you were unemployed, it's because you chose to be unemployed. You could get a job if you had to.
That's true. Yes.
And I think a lot of people will put certain jobs below them.
Yes.
Like where they won't apply for these jobs.
Right, which I think is stupid, but
no, I agree. I'm not disagreeing, but it's just I think that's like right now, hypothetically, if the bar burnt down and I had to go apply to places, I'd be like, oh, I can't find a job, but this company's hiring a janitor. I'm not gonna be a fucking janitor. Not gonna.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
Well, the thing is, it could be like that, or you're just overqualified. What if you are so desperate for a job? I'm like applying to be like a ranger or something like that. I don't have the qualifications, or it's like you have a college degree. You're overqualified. And then it's like, oh, we are looking for a SharePoint dude. And then I go in and start talking about administration. It's like, oh, you're not a good fit here because you know too much. It's like, so personality does go a long way. I've learned how to leverage that. But in terms of skills, but the thing is, there, even this past thing, there's a component I don't, with regards to Power Apps, because I know you guys are into Microsoft. With regards to Power Apps, I wasn't sure about using Dataverse. And, you know, the guy who interviewed me, the technical guy, he's like, it's easy, you can learn it, you know, because we got along, and he's right. It's not a big deal.
I think a lot of people are willing to forgive the skills if you are nice and you are open. I was going to say, because you touched on something like where if you go in and you kind of seem overqualified or whatever, the last job interview I ever went on, this is before I kind of dedicated myself to the bar. It was for a bartending position when my girl used to live in the Valley, and it was like the bar was right down her street. This is a poster up. They were like building it. There's a poster up, hiring now, blah, blah, blah. So I just went online. I put in my resume, and I got a call the next day like, hey, can you interview today? And I was like, cool, yeah, I'm here. I'm available. That's what I was staying at her place. Sat down with two hiring managers. We talked. It felt like just a conversation. It wasn't like an interview. Like we vibed. Like it was cool.
Nice.
And granted, I know the industry. This face is not one you hire. I know the industry, but I was younger, but still, I know. But they were like, you know what? We really dig you. We're going to follow up. We're going to set up a second interview with the owner. And we're really going to go back for you. We really like you. I was like, all right, cool. Dope. Next morning. So the Valley is about an hour away from my bar and where I was living at the time. Mm-hmm. So the next morning I was already set to drive home, but they called me in the morning and they're like, can you interview today at like 3:00? And I was like, paraphrasing, fuck no, I can't. I have to be at my job at 6. I'm not leaving after 3. Like, that's going to be fucking horrible traffic.
Yeah.
And I didn't say all that, but I said like no. And they're like, okay, hold on. Can you make it at 11? Like, they changed it up. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there. Cool. Got in. And this owner was a fucking piece of shit. Like, 30 seconds in, I was like, fuck this guy. And I was still trying. Like, he fucking right off the bat, like, asked me about like my resume. He's like, what's this bar? And it was obviously my bar that I had worked at since I was. And I was like, oh, I kind of lied. I was like, because I don't want to say it's my parents' place, you know? But I was like, it's a friend of the family, so I know them. So I started working there when I was 16. I'm a bartender there now. Now I'm the lead bartender, etc. And he was like, so why are you applying at a bar in the Valley? And I was like, no, my girl lives out here. So, like, I actually would love the slow days, Mondays and Tuesdays. Like, I don't want the busy days. And then he questioned my resume and pretty much subtly accused me of lying. Because I did do consultant work on my girl's company at the time because they were building a bar at one of their locations. And so I did go in as a consultant to talk about it. Now, in reality, I donated my time. I said I was paid on my resume. Fuck, who cares? I did the work, though. And he kept challenging me, why would they hire you? And I kept saying, like, I knew somebody in the company, so instead of getting a expensive consulting company, they came to me instead because of my experience. And he's like, I just don't understand why they would do that. And I'm like, just fucking tell me you think I'm lying. Like, why would I lie about that? This is a bartending job. Why would I say I'm a consultant on my resume when I could just say I bartended all these other fucking places? Like, it's stupid. It was dumb. I was like, and then he starts talking to me about, like, what kind of bar is this place? He's talking about my place. And I was like, it's kind of like a normal bar, turns into kind of a classic rock club in the weekends. And so he started saying, so you were a trained bartender? And I was like, I was trained as a bar back, and I kind of self-taught myself as a bartender as I went. So you're not formally trained. Well, I had other bartenders train me, etc. So you're not formally trained. I guess not. No. Okay, so we'll probably, and he kind of went in this condescending thing about how I would work the beer bar only, not the cocktail bar. And I was like, at the time I still wanted the job, you know what I mean? I was like, so I'm still trying. And he even said, he's like, so what kind of cocktails do they make there? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, it's not like, you know, he said, he's like, is it like a really simple bar or is it like a fancy bar? Like, and I was like, do you mean like an artisan cocktail bar? And the fact that I knew the word, visibly, you could tell he was irritated. He was like, yeah, an artisan bar. Yeah. And I was like, we're not really an artisan bar, blah, blah, blah. And he just kept going on. And like anything, like, it was just like, why are you being so antagonistic? And I'm not sure.
Work for him, you know, and if you're younger, you can call it. But yeah, there's so many red flags right there.
But it was just weird.
This isn't going to work out.
And I told the story to a few people, and some of them were like, do you think maybe like because you knew your shit so much that he like was threatened? And I was like, I don't want to go to the threatened thing. But the last straw where I was kind of like, meanwhile, the managers who had my back the day before were fucking quiet. Because I'm not sure if they were.
Yeah, I mean, but
it was just funny. Even the consultant thing that I did for the company, he even was like, so what'd you consult on? And I was kind of like, well, I can't say everything, so I signed, you know, like a non-disclosure agreement. But pretty much they were asking me from my experience where I would put POS systems, the coolers, the supplies, all this stuff. And he's like, I can't make this shit up. He was like, so you weren't really a bar consultant. You were more of like a location consultant on like where to locate things. And I was like, fine. I was just like, fine.
Yeah.
And the final thing that he said to me, he's like, I got to tell you, Mike, like, because I did kind of win him over with some stories of my past experience. But he's like, I got to tell you, Mike, I really like you. You seem really trustworthy. But one thing I noticed throughout this whole interview is you haven't smiled since you walked in the room. And everyone likes going to a bar, and the bartender's smiling, the server's smiling. And in my head, I was like, you've been fucking attacking me since the moment I walked in here. Of course I'm not fucking smiling. And I just I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, I'm just trying to take this as serious as possible. I want the job. And he's like, okay, well, yeah, we'll see if we call you. And I think by the time I got to my car is when I realized, like, fuck that guy. Because in the moment I was trying to impress him still, but I was like, fuck this
You want
guy.
to be liked. It's natural.
Should have walked back in and said, hey, you know what? Fuck you. And fuck your bar.
I'm not
and,
taking your job.
Well,
I'm an artist.
San Bernardino County, bitch. Fuck you.
Well,
Fuck
it was
away.
so dumb. Like, because on my resume,
it
on my resume, I said a lead bartender at my place, and part of my job was to pick beer selection. So he asked me about that. This is how fucking dumb this guy is. It's turning in my own fucking rant now. Sorry. This is how dumb this guy is.
And
he goes,
angry you still are about it. Okay.
because it does bother me. So I'm not gonna lie, because it was just so weird. He was like, so you picked the beer selections at your place? I was like, yeah. So he starts going on this monologue about how he spent 2 years putting together his beer selection, which in my head I was like, 2 years? Like, I could come up with a good thing in like 10 minutes, but fine. And and so he goes, and then he tells me, he's like, so if we did decide to hire you, I would need, I think he just used the word because I had already used it. He's like, I would probably need you to sign like a non-disclosure agreement or a non-competitive agreement, so that you don't take my beer list and implement it at your bar, like this other bar. And I remember I think he got pissed off when I said this. I was like, well, a lot of the beers we have at the bar are like from local breweries you probably never heard of. And it's also an hour away. So I don't think that's a problem, but I'd be willing to sign that if it makes you feel better. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, yeah, of course, because I just don't want my beer list. And I was like,
he's like, it's from what I've gathered, this guy sounds like all the toxic traits of a self-made man. Like the guys who come up from nothing and build their own business and make it. God bless them. But
I hope you're being sarcastic.
No, there is a healthy version of that. The guys that come up, and girls who come up from nothing and build themselves a business and are great, and you meet them and you're like, that's why you're rich, because because you're an awesome person. But then there's the toxic side of that. Those kind of guys that are just like, I did it my way, and my way is the shit, and everyone else that thinks they can help me is wrong, and I am better, because I come up from nothing and all that. It's just, you see it a lot in that.
But I don't want to go too long. I'm not sure if I should even mention this. So I was so irritated at the time that I actually went online and started Googling this guy just because I was curious, like, who the fuck's this guy? So I went to the bar's website. I almost want to say the bar.
You're gonna get fucking sued, man. He watches definitely. But
well, I haven't said anything yet. To know who it is. But so I Googled him and I went to the So I went to the website of the bar that hasn't even opened yet. So there's a full website and everything. Yeah, it wasn't open yet. It was going to be like a fresh opening.
So we could those of you listening at home, you can go back on your timeline, try to find the time when Mike was applying for jobs at a bar that hasn't opened yet in the Valley. Okay.
I don't think I talked about it on there, but maybe. But I went to it, and so if you went to the website, there was all these links towards God damn it, franchising opportunities for this place. Okay. Franchise opportunities, like you could open your own franchise, reach out to us. That was like a lot of the website, and I was like, because this place isn't even open yet. And upon further searching, I found some clips on YouTube where he went on a one of those dumb local talk shows no one watches, and he gave like this interview about his place opening up in LA, et cetera, et cetera. And then one of the girls was like, where could we find your place? And this was like a year or two before this even happened. Like before I was looking at it was like 2 years old. And he was like, well, we're still looking for locations in Orange County and LA County and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is 2 years ago from when I was interviewed. He still hasn't opened. He didn't have a location, and he was trying to like put out this franchising thing.
Interesting.
I looked deeper because it was just fascinating to me at that point. I looked deeper. Yeah. I forgot the name of the burger chain in LA and Orange County. He was like one of the top dogs like on the board, and they were ripping off their franchisees, like the people who were franchising through them. They weren't giving them the share of the profits, and he went by a different name at the time too.
Whoa!
And I was like, one, the internet has way too much shit on it. I shouldn't know this stuff. Ooh. But like, two, this guy is literally not just rude to me, a piece of shit. Yeah. Because I found out all this, and I was like, oh my god, and he was sued for it, and so he had to like drop his position at that company, and now he has this new bar, and I guess they have like 2 or 3 locations now. And I was just like, I dodged a fucking bullet. And
bullet dodge.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so my lady, she worked in the area around where that bar was, and she actually, with people in her company, you hear shit locally. And I guess people had gone there and everybody was like, the owner of this place is a jackass. Like people didn't like working for him. People like, I even looked at Yelp. I think Yelp's a fucking wasteland of nonsense, but I even looked at Yelp and the reviews were all negative right away. It was fucking, so I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't get that job. I'm glad I didn't. Anyway, that became a personal rant. Sorry.
It did, but you know, it shows you're frustrated. And
Taking time.
You judge
So interesting.
judge this character right away. So
interesting.
dodged a bullet.
He looked like a douchebag too. You don't usually look like a douchebag.
That's
what
like
a nozzle and smelled like summer's eve or what?
I think I made a GIF of him on one of those videos I found because he was laughing like a fucking retard, and I GIFed it.
Nice.
I might have to share that in the private chat if I can find it.
Absolutely, or the public chat, because that's what we're doing. We gotta share this.
Then I would get sued. Someone was like, "Hey, isn't this you?"
Hey, it's like, find the libel.
What are they gonna take from us? It's like
find the libel. Tell me something I said that wasn't true.
We're like
point it out.
philosophers. It says it, you know.
And prove it wasn't true.
Exactly.
Did you record the conversation? No.
Nope.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. All right. Well, hey, you know what? Hopefully, you know what? Hopefully people today get better about applying for jobs. And
well, it's going to get real interesting because inflation's eating, oil prices are eating, energy costs are eating. So
people need jobs, man.
It's get ready to see a flip and get ready to see people who you really want to work for. And then there's the opposite of that. You're going to have to turn good people away. Top-notch people, when you have to turn them away, you're getting this end of it. The other end is coming soon. So that's
there was
what you're doing now.
Yeah, to kind of go into what you were just saying, there was a story I read. And I forgot where it was. It was an Applebee's somewhere, like in the South or the Midwest. That there was like an email between like board members or management or something, where they were explaining like the economy is going to shift towards employers again, and they were using it as a way to justify lowering their wages or something. And someone leaked the email to, or I think it was one of the managers who got it, who was like, "That's fucking wrong. That's horrible." Mm-hmm. And so they leaked it to the rest of the staff, and there was like a mass quitting. This Applebee's, just everyone just quit.
You don't need Applebee's like trash.
Applebee's can't win, can they? First they had that ad when the Ukrainians were getting bombed and shit, and now this. Eesh.
What ad?
That thing, like right during the invasion of Ukraine.
I didn't.
The news station where they ran the Applebee's ad during. Okay, I thought you meant like they had an ad with Ukraine's.
That's funny.
No, yeah.
I know what you're talking about now.
No. I'm talking about the CNN coverage of the Ukrainian invasion, where they were showing the cityscape and you hear the bombs and the sirens and all that, and then they went to split screen, and then there's this Applebee's ad. It was rough. It was so rough.
The timing was tough. I do remember that now. Okay.
It was the best moment of the past like 6 months of my life. It was amazing.
I like cringe humor, but that was a little cringy for me too. I was like,
and I guess that and my niece being born was like the best moments.
Fuck her.
No, thank you. But
gross.
So that is us in the labor markets and kind of the challenges and frustrations, the reason whys, and speaking from somebody who was recently in the job market and to people who are a part of small businesses and looking for labor.
Or not looking for labor.
one who is just an isolationist and doesn't even want to bother with other people. Another one, Mike, who has to hire people and has to suffer that. It's unfortunate, but
I'm not washing those dishes.
Thoughts and prayers, bro. Thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
It'll be interesting to get like some more. I can't help but think that all of our episodes are going to have something to do with small business and business development and hiring and managing and all that shit. So it'll be interesting. But at least I think it's interesting. I don't give a shit.
I do too.
The fake philosophers, your small and mid-sized business complainers.
Yes.
Need something complained about? We can do it.
At least we're employed. Not like fucking Socrates. He didn't have a job. He just spoke publicly. Dick.
Philosophers. Yeah, go to the philosophy factory and get a job.
Nietzsche didn't do shit. Philosophy. What did he do? He didn't have a job. He probably might if I didn't do my research. Anyway.
He was a florist.
Get some angry comments on that one.
Someone take us home. Who let us in? I forgot.
I did. One of you take us home.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks
We
for listening.
Appreciate it.
Like and subscribe. Again. Tell your friends if you want to listen to some.
Tell your friends.
If you want to listen to some slightly buzzed, pretentious assholes pontificate for an hour.
And we're gonna give you a guarantee that Glennie is gonna get angry at least once an episode. You can count on that. That's the fair. Angry Glennie guaranteed.
Angry for sure. Well, thanks for listening, guys and girls, and we'll see you next time.